So in today's Academy lesson, we're going to go over something known as the packet control. Now, this is something that I came up with years and years and years ago. However, you've seen multiple different types of variations on this particular plot by people like Leonard Green, David Regal, and I'm sure Ed Marlowe has something in there somewhere. So for this, it's a very, very simple technique. We're going to have the spectator pick any card. Let's say it happens to be the 2 of diamonds. This card happens to get lost in the middle of the deck somewhere, and you have the spectator help you with the shuffling process. So you give them 2 packets of cards, and you're going to have them actually mix these packets together. And you're going to do the same yourself. So you're going to take these 2 packets and mix it together just like that. The spectator, in the meanwhile, is doing the exact same thing with their pile, mixing it up together as well. You could show the fact that the packets are actually genuinely getting mixed and shuffled together because the spectator is helping you with the process here. And then lastly, you mix and shuffle both of these piles together too. Again, showing to the spectator that the cards are in fact mixed. At this point, you can have the spectator push in both piles themselves and reiterate the fact that they've mixed the cards. The cards are lost, but of course in this action, you've controlled their card directly to the top of the deck. So this is a very, very simple action to do, super easy, and pretty much gives the spectator the impression that the deck was thoroughly mixed. However, I think we know a little bit better than that. So for this is very, very simple. All you need is a card that's picked. In this case, it's going to be the 2 of spades. You're going to square this up and get a break right above that card. So that's the first step of this. The next step is just dividing the top pile into 3 piles here. So we're going to give the spectator approximately a third of the deck. We're going to spread this pile, give them an approximate third of the deck as well. So you're left still with some cards above your break, as well as the lower half of the deck. So at this point, you could spread to the break the deck off there, and lastly drop the remaining cards on the table. So the spectator's card is actually on top of this pile, which I'm going to leave face up for the remainder of this. Now all that takes place is you're going to have the spectator mix their piles together at the same time that you mix your pile together, ensuring that the 2 of spades stays on top of the deck. That's all that you need to do for this particular situation. Now, if the spectator isn't one that's has an affinity for cards and they have a hard time shuffling cards like this, you could do something by Leonard Green known as the Rosetta Shuffle, which is very simply just taking this pile and spinning it. Now you're going to do this for both piles. So now the spectator doesn't necessarily have to riffle the cards. All they have to do is just push both piles together. Now you can do this as well with your pile. If you want to demonstrate to the spectator what you want them to do, you're going to put the little rosettes, hence the name Rosetta Shuffle, and you're just going to push these piles together, ensuring that the 2 of spades remains on top of the pile. So the spectator does this, again ensuring that they have the impression that the cards are mixed. You're going to square this up, and lastly, you're just going to square these 2 piles up, making sure that your 2 of spades stays on top. Now, if you do this with the Rosetta Shuffle, very simple. All you're doing is pushing it together. You can even have the spectator somewhat help you here, and you could spread the cards to show that the cards are being thoroughly mixed. If you're doing this with the riffle, then I suggest getting to the point right at the end where the cards are about to get interwoven with each other, just like this, and then having the spectator finish off the action of pushing it together to give the impression that they mixed the cards up. So what I like about this particular sequence is that the idea is that you've had the spectator help you shuffle the deck, so there's no way that you could have any sort of control over the cards. However, you've controlled their card right to the top of the deck. Now this works with pretty much anything. If you want to do this with the 4 aces or a 4 of a kind or even a small stack, you're more than welcome to do that. All you need to do is just have that stack on top of the deck, cut the cards, retaining a break. You're going to separate the cards just like we discussed earlier if you want, any sort of way to ensure the fact the spectator is aware that there isn't any sort of control here, but obviously you've controlled the pile to wherever it is that you want. Now at this point, if you want, you could do a false shuffle. Now we're going to go over a particular false shuffle that is known as the Hunter Shuffle in a later lesson. However, you could do it at this point to retain the actual stock itself while the spectator's mixing up the cards themselves. At the end, all you have to do is make sure that your pile remains with whatever stock cards you have being on top of the pile. So that's just something that you would do to ensure that those cards stay in the same order. But we're going to talk about that particular shuffle in a future lesson. I think it's a wonderful little bit of a mix where you can just give the impression that you're mixing up the cards in a haphazard fashion, however, keeping the deck in the exact same order. So this is a nice little thing just to retain the top stock of the deck while the spectator apparently helps you out. I call it the stock control shuffle. I'm sure it's something that's been done many times before, but it's just something that I was very proud of when I initially came up with this many years ago. And I hope you enjoy it. Thank you guys for being part of the Pigcake Card Academy, and I hope to see you on the next lesson.